All right, welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. We got a wonderful guest tonight. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
You know what? I'm doing fantastic. I feel honored to be on the show tonight, and I'm ready for a really good interview.
Sounds good. Well,
Yep.
I don't know if I'm a good interviewee, but we'll see how it goes.
All right.
So first of all, I'll just give a shout out to everybody in the chat room. Gary's already tuned in here. So thank you guys. And there's others in there that's not in the chat room. Sorry guys, I can't mention your name unless you show up in the chat room. Anyway, Matt, I'm glad that you agreed to come on. Sean has said a lot about you. Nothing bad. He's always said something good about you. So.
Absolutely. Sean is my absolute mentor. I mean, what a great guy, great friend. And I couldn't find a better person to team up with.
Yep. He's something else.
Yes, he is.
So what we'll do is we will get right into this, just so that people can get to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you started.
All right. Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I just haven't been really kind of out there in the open about this too much. I am still employed as a police officer, so I try not to get too much out there. But the one thing is I'm getting closer to retirement, so now I can make it a little more known.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. So. But I've always had an interest in Bigfoot. I've always, I remember being a little kid. My mom took me to the Legend of Boggy Creek movie that was playing. We were in the military, so it was playing on base, and all the other kids are sitting there playing. I'm sitting there watching it, like, oh my god, yeah, this is the best.
Yep.
And so I'll always remember that. And I always had that whole just interest in cryptozoology. It was more Bigfoot than anything else. I had the goings with the Loch Ness monster and some sea serpents, but man, Bigfoot to me is it being out in the woods and exploring areas that have been left untouched for hundreds or thousands of years. It's just an amazing feeling. So, but years ago, when I was I was in junior high school at the time, and my mom, who had been a stay-at-home mom, my dad was still in the Navy. She decided to take a job because I was the youngest of the kids. And at this point, Generation Z or Generation X, we were latchkey kids, towards the end. Right. And so she took a job at an industrial park that wasn't that far from our house. And one night they had her come in. They were doing a promotion, that was coming up that week. So they needed everyone to work overtime. So she left around 7:00 at night, and she came right back to the house. And she told my dad, she said, I saw a monster. And so I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I want to go out there. My dad's like, no, you got to stay here. Yeah, you got to stay here. But apparently what she saw is she described it. Now, again, my mom, she's very conservative, grew up in almost like, what you would consider like a hollow, except it was in the anthracite country in Pennsylvania, but it wasn't much different from a West Virginia hollow. If they saw somebody walking up the road, they were always looking out the window. So she described what she saw as being like a long-haired, hippie, guitar playing, hairy person, and with the greasy hair. And she said it was big, and it crossed the road in about 2 to 3 steps. Which it's a standard, country road. I had gone out there, afterwards, because I didn't want, it was just my dad going out there, when she first saw it. To the one side of the road was nothing but woods. The other side of the road was a farm, But she said where it went to was at the farm. There was a pond, and it had cattails. So she said it went from the road, from the woods across the road and over to the where the pond was, and then she lost sight of it. She turned around and locked the doors, and came flying back. So this was before cell phones too.
Right.
So I mean, that was another thing that just kind of really got the interest going. Then, of course, as I was, that was probably I was definitely younger. So after that, the interest kind of waned a little bit because I had, I was playing football, I was playing ice hockey. I was, just doing everything a regular teenager does, and then I went to school, but I still always had that interest. And I always thought, man, there's got to be something out there. Around 99, 2000, I started getting involved with a couple local paranormal groups before the paranormal thing got big. And I said, listen, I was friends with the people. And I said, listen, I'm not into going into a haunted house or anything like that. But if there's anything out in the woods, let me know, and we were up in the Poconos and in Pennsylvania, and they'd say, hey, you know what? Somebody said that they saw something. They think it's a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And of course, with the people around here, they thought that Bigfoot was only out in the northwest, part of the United States. They didn't think that there'd be Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. And so we ended up, going out there. We didn't know what we were doing, We didn't know anything about wood knocks. We didn't know anything about howls, the Ohio howl. Yeah, we were just going out there, just walking around the woods in the middle of the night and seeing if we saw anything. And, now the one thing is, and I, thinking back on this, is there was a few times I have heard what may have been an Ohio howl while we were out in the woods, but it didn't really dawn on me when we were out there, because I'm thinking, oh, that's probably a coyote or an owl. But the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know, this might have been something else.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had been in around that time too. I was on, it was the infancy of the internet. I was trying to, I look at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society page, which back then was the old school, file format. And so I'd always email, and I don't think it went to Eric Alton. I think it went to the other director at the time, and I never heard anything back.
Was that when Dave Drageson was?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just always kept up. I always had it bookmarked on my computer, and it would check in. And then somehow, I think it was 2012. They were having a conference, not really, not like a major conference, but just like a get together. And they were going to do a camping expedition out at Parker Dam State Park. So I had gone out there. I went out there on my own and didn't know anybody. Brought my tent along, figure, all right, maybe I'll, get to talk to some of these people and get a little more into it. So as I'm walking there, I'm seeing all these, big names, walking around, and Eric Altman and a few of the others, and I'm talking to them, but there was this crowd, and I'd say it was like the crowd of misfits, and there was
that might have been us.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it was there was a younger guy, kind of short, a big tall guy. I was about as tall as me, and two others. And the little guy comes up to me and says, "My name's Sean," and that was the start of our friendship. And so what ended up happening that night was we went out to the spot where Sean had his experience. I believe it was the year before, and he was still a little nervous, but there was me and there was another guy there who was he was an Iraqi war vet, and the two of us, I took the front, he took the he took the rear position, and we walked into that clearing, and man, we had a blast, out there. So it was really a great time, and it was just to get out there and like I said, we made some lifelong friends, from that experience. So,
and that's one of the best parts of this. You meet so many people, you end up making good friends, and next thing you know, you're going out in the woods together and just
absolutely,
having a good time. Now,
oh my God!
I'm gonna ask you what this is that you sent me. Hold on a minute. See if I can pull it up.
Okay.
I know there's a way of doing it. I just got to figure it out. Here we go.
All right. So I had just sent that to you. That was when I was in, I believe it was first grade. We had to make a book about what we were going to do with our, what we were going to do when we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was, drawing pictures of Bigfoot, and a picture of me in a park ranger outfit. So my goal when I was a little kid was to be a park ranger out in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Now I didn't really things kind of changed a little bit. I'm a police officer, but I'm in the Poconos area, but I'm still looking for Bigfoot, and I don't think it really went all that far from what I thought. Right. So
that's right. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that picture though, and again, that was something I did when I was in first grade. So this was in 1977, 78 when I drew that. So that was a long time ago, and I don't know if I got the Bigfoot right, but
it's just cool that you still have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? My parents had that book, and they always saved it for me, and so we have it now, and that's in my archives now. So
nice.
But yes. So, but yeah. So that's an awesome picture. I thought you were going to show another picture that was on my Facebook page, because speaking of Sean and in that outing. There's an event I'm not that entirely proud of. We led Sean and the group on what they called the Death March. Okay. So what happened was I looked at the map, and again, me and the other guy who was Iraqi war vet, U.S. Army, we're both very skilled with maps, and we're looking at the maps. I said, hey, you know what? Here's a connector trail for the Quahana Trail. We'll go up this way. It's just a quick, easy loop. It'll take us about maybe an hour or 2 hours at the most. Well, Next thing you know, we couldn't find that connector loop, so we just kept walking along whatever trail this was, and we ended up about like 6 or 7 miles away.
Oh, wow.
In the complete opposite direction. I mean, we were going north, but it wasn't fun. We had to have we flagged down a pickup truck to drive us back. So and I'll never live that up.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I am not ashamed to say that we had the same thing happen. It was me and my 3 boys.
Okay.
We actually had a trail map.
Yes.
And the markers on the trail were not painted the color of the trail map, right?
Yes.
So we got way off track.
Yes.
And we got, I don't know how many miles off we were, but we finally walked all the way to a road and found this house, and went to the house, knocked on the door, and we had to call and get the park ranger come down and pick us up and take us up a fire road to get us back to our car.
Oh no. Yeah. It was very similar to that. And again, this is before GPS. We were going back on the me and him, we were both trained in orienteering, and even that screwed us up a little bit. So but it was still a good time. And you know what? It's times like that really bond everyone. So but yeah, so after that, I was in it, like, we've had some different I'd go out on my own, basically. I really wasn't affiliated with one particular group other than the PBS. I mean, and with Sean had a group called the Keystone Bigfoot Project that we, myself and another local researcher had joined up with him on that. And but we did just minimal, investigations. It really, we did have some good stuff around here, but we really didn't get a lot, so it was, if we got something, we'd go out and check it out. But then just recently in the last, couple of years here, I really started, I think it was about 2018, 2019, me and my wife went out to Ohio Bigfoot Conference, met up with Sean and the rest of the Sasquatch Experience crew, had a great time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I said, all right, I'm getting back into this a little more. And, and ever since then, it's been pretty much nonstop. So
yeah, that's what happens.
Yep.
That's what happens. You get sucked in, and then, before you know it, you're helping plan conferences. And
yes. I'm not a conference person though, so that's my thing. My thing is I'd rather be out in the woods, I have a couple different places I go to, and that specific areas, and they're not in the Poconos though. They're more in north central PA. Minimal amount of people, and nothing but wilderness out there, and you know what? There's still that trickle of reports that come in that really keep you intrigued.
Well, and that's why I put this comment up, because that's actually an interesting statement, Mick.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder how many have had some kind of encounter, and when they were out there parked, doing whatever, and probably drinking, and they're like, we're not talking about this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing about Pennsylvania, and you have two different types of people that people that will go out there and say, you know what, there's no Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. It must have been something else, or maybe that was just a big tall guy that was standing out in the middle of the woods, and in the middle of the night. Or you get the other people, and this is the kind of people I deal with out in our main research area, is that they got that machismo attitude, and nope, I didn't see that, even though I saw it. It was definitely something. Because there's no Bigfoot. It had to be a bear that was up on two legs with long arms,
right?
With the flat face. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
No nose. I want to. Maybe his nose fell off or something.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think it's going to take to bring proof of the existence of this?
A body. Yeah. I'm kind of holding out hope for the North Carolina State DNA study. I think with what can be done with DNA is absolutely amazing. And
absolutely.
Yep. And with that, I've had some emails go back and forth with that group. So just to get ready, if we do get whether it's hair or any sort of DNA evidence that we're following their protocol to send it in. But really, I mean, at this point, after how many years, I think unfortunately they're going to have to find a body. My biggest wish, if you can call it that, is we find a body of a naturally deceased specimen. I don't want to be sitting out there and I'm not the kind of person that's gonna shoot one. Now I will say this though, is if I see one crossing the road, I may have to put my wife's Ford Escape at risk of getting some damage if we nick it in the calf or something. But really, seriously, I'm really hoping that we end up finding one that either died from natural causes or maybe died from an accident. That scientists could take that body and do the research.
Yep. Yeah, me too. I hope we just run across something.
Yep.
So, what we talked about this earlier. What is one thing you want everyone to know about you, Matt Arner?
Well, so it's a funny story. I got asked to do a conference last year. Never did any conferences. So I did the conference with Glenn Purcell, Scott Knockers, Central PA Bigfoot Conference.
Mhm.
And I was so proud, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to go in there. And I prepped everything. Now everyone's talking about these grandiose, uh, uh, things that they had happen to them, and
Mhm.
their experiences. I went in there and I said, listen, I want to talk about safety. We have so many people that go out in the woods, and even with us, like, I talked about that earlier incident with Sean, in that group, where we were out in the woods and we got off trail. So what I try to do and what I try to emphasize is, because of the fact that I'm a first responder,
Mhm.
and what I want to do is I want to minimize the impact, not just on the environment, but also on the local resources, that we don't have Bigfoot researchers that go out there and, end up getting lost, end up getting
Mhm.
hurt.
Right.
How to prepare yourself if you're going to be going out in some of the places, like I go to, where, like the one area I go to is the Hammersley Fork Wild Area.
Mhm.
And that is the largest, it's the largest roadless region in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
So there's not even a fire road. There's not even a logging road to get back there. It
Mhm.
is nothing but foot trails,
Yeah.
for 30,000 acres. So
Yeah.
the one thing is that I don't, I want to make sure that when we go out in the woods, that we go out in the woods and we're safe. So like I always
Right.
push, I have my Garmin. We talked earlier about the Garmin.
Mhm.
I carry a Garmin GPS with me. I always make sure that it's, that it's on, that it's charged. If something were to happen, there's a little red button I can hit and the cavalry comes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I always carry, like we were talking about backpacks too. Like, you can carry a day pack, but if you're going to be carrying, um, anything, like you're carrying plaster or something heavier like that, wear a load bearing backpack.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Make sure you have water. If you don't have water, have a water filtration system. So that you can get water from the streams, because you don't want to drink that water,
Right.
straight in.
Right.
That won't make for a fun few days afterwards. So
No, 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 no.
yeah, so there's all sorts of different tips and protocols I put forth, so that
Yeah.
when you do go out, especially if you're going out into an area like, maybe they're not going to the Hammersley Fork or the Allegheny National Forest, but maybe they're going out to the local state park or the state forest. Have a
Mhm.
plan. Let people
Yeah.
know where you're going to be parked. Let people know how
Right.
long you're going to be there. For.
Mhm.
And so I did that, and really that's why I really try to emphasize is being safe out in the woods,
Yeah.
and uh, if something were to happen, that you're prepared.
Yep. Exactly. And I've always been a big proponent for, if you're going out and you're going to, be out there for a while, you're going in deep, take a
Hmm.
buddy.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely,
I mean, anybody
absolutely.
can, fall, bust up their knee, break
Yep.
their ankle. I mean, what are you gonna do? Crawl back out of there miles and
Yes.
miles?
Yep. Yep. And really, I mean, that's where I end up. I that's my thing is, like I said, there's people that like going to the conferences, people that like doing the research on the computer. I on the other hand, I want to be deep in those woods,
Yeah,
and see what I can experience, and
yep,
try to document it as best I could.
right, right. So, who are your mentors? I think I know the answer to that.
Oh man, well, definitely Sean.
Hmm.
Sean has just been such a great person, to look up to, and he's a
No, no,
great
no, no,
friend.
no. You got that
Oh
wrong.
yeah.
No, you look down.
Oh yeah, but you know what though, he's such a great character, and his knowledge too, like he's like an encyclopedia of
Hmm.
knowledge and encounters and
Yeah,
people, and that's one thing I really like about Sean, is that he remembers people he talked to 20 years ago, He remembers where that was. He keeps everything, kept, either in his memory or written down somewhere. He knows, some of these people, I leave and I forgot their name, 2 minutes later, but he keeps all that on track. He's very well read. And then even going to the well-read people, going back to our group with the Sasquatch experience, Henry May, Henry May. Yeah. Yes. Between Henry, I'll put the two of them like kind of equal, Henry May and Danny Perez, for just their absolute knowledge, those guys are just fantastic. Recently, I'll tell you, there's people I look up to, there's people I respect, and I'll tell you, from Small Town Monsters, Alex and Eli, those guys there, they're doing everything that I wish I could do, and they're doing everything the right way. Seeing, the way that they were going out backpacking into these backcountry areas, and spending the time there and trying to, either document or trying to elicit, responses. Right. The way that they do everything is fantastic. And again, I look up to that, but I'm also kind of looking back a little bit that, they're with their age, with them being younger guys, those guys are going to be the future, for Bigfooting. And, and they really already are at the pinnacle. But, 20 years from now, when we're sitting there, talking about Bigfoot at the nursing home, these guys will be out there, doing it all. So, but going into the past too, like, just looking at, reading about John Green, and, just the fact that, here he was, a journalist that, put everything, into documenting all these reports and, going out there and trying to, going to those places, in British Columbia and in Washington, Oregon, and California. And the same thing with, going back that far, like with Renee DeHindren, and I always say too, like, going back to like what inspired us. I remember I had a book that I got at the library. I don't know what book it was, but there was a picture of Renee DeHindren next to the big Bigfoot statue. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like that was just awesome. So, those are probably, my bigger mentors. Eric Altman, from Pennsylvania, you got to give a lot of credit to him. He's held down the fort here. And then even Stan, going back, Stan Gordon too, and, so they're really, there's so many people out there. I can go on a whole show about that.
Yeah. Mick, you're right. Daniel Perez, he does have just archives and archives of information.
Yes.
And Henry May, again, we used to call him the encyclopedia.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He can remember everything to the T, which is not any of my quality. So I have a hard time remembering what I did yesterday. So.
Yeah, same here.
But all right, so now we're gonna have some fun.
All right.
So everyone knows this. We always have AI create a couple songs about our guests. So let's see what AI has come up with for Matt Arner. Here's the first one.
All right.
Wrong one. Here we go.
In the misty woods of Pennsylvania, the legends told. There's a man named Matt with a wild heart of stone. He got his flashlight and his camera in hand, searching for a creature that the world can't understand. Chasing shadows in the dead of night, hoping to catch a glimpse of sheer delight. A fearless explorer on a quest so true. He's chasing shadows, Bigfoot for you. Through the valleys and the mountains that never rest, following the footprints on a mission to be the best. With every step he takes, he feels the adrenaline rise. In a world of mystery, where fact and fiction collide.
That was awesome. that I was not expecting that. I was.
Well, so the AI program I've been using, they've released the new version.
Okay.
So it now does the song a little bit longer and gives you a little bit more lyrics. So it's even better than what it was before. So,
that is fantastic. That is fantastic.
Here's the second one.
All right.
In the dark of the forest, met on a road, with fire in his eyes and iron in his bones. He's on a mission with no fear or regret, searching for Sasquatch. He won't quit just yet. Running through the wilderness, hop up and fast, chasing after legends from the distant past. Not Arner won't back down, he won't collapse. Hunting the beast, he's in for the ultimate clash.
That is awesome. And you know what? I actually have a music Bigfoot story. We'll tell you later on. So
Okay.
yeah. So
Oh man.
because I have some strange musical taste. So
Yeah.
maybe not so strange, but
I'm the same way. I can
Yep.
listen to country, I can listen to
Mhm.
rock, I can listen to soft rock, I can listen to hard rock. I go all over the place.
yep,
So,
yep.
of course, a lot of my stuff's in the 80s. I like all the 80s stuff.
Oh, same here. Absolutely, absolutely.
So what is one of your most favorite sighting or encounter reports?
Okay, well, you know what? I will go right into. This is the perfect segue from the music into my musical story. So,
All right, cool.
so I was doing an expedition up in the Allegheny National Forest, and that was the first time I met Gwen. From Got Knockers, and we had a fantastic. We definitely were like, oh my god, this is gonna be great. So we were going up to the main investigation spot, and I had a guy in the car in my truck with me, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to have my radio playing. I'm playing. It was Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM because that's all I listen to is Sirius because, when you're out in the mountains, you don't get anything else.
Right.
So it was Willie's Roadhouse on a Saturday night, and they were doing the old country, like, the 1930s, 1940s.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he's sitting there, the guy's looking at me, he's like, what the hell are you listening to? And I looked at him, I said, you know what? I said, this is probably the same music that Patterson and Gimlin were listening to when they were on their way to Bluff Creek. And you know what? It really, he stopped right there and he was like, oh my God, I think you're right. So anyways, we get up to the spot and we have a bunch of people at the bonfire. And we said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to split up. We're going to have one group go off to the west. We're going to have another group go off to the east. We're going to have the older people that are going to stay at the bonfire, and we're maybe nothing will happen, but they're still out in a pretty decent area where we had some encounters. So we're sitting there, and I went off to the other group. It was myself, Gwen, and another researcher, and all of a sudden we get radio chatter from the bonfire. They said, hey, something just growled at us, and we hear something crashing through the brush. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Well, while that's going on, probably about 20 seconds later, I hear pop, clear wood knock. and we hear it sounds like something just breaking through the brush. You hear branches breaking and everything, but you heard that pop, which was different.
Mm-hmm.
So then about another maybe 30, 40 seconds later, we hear another one. And this one here was coming directly, from my left. And I said, and there was a little tiny road that came up, and then we were on basically a little access road to a gas well. So we heard that second pop, and then we hear the footfalls. We're looking across the roadway. Unfortunately, it was in September, so it was all the leaves were still on the trees, and on the side you get all those little scrub maples and everything, so you can't really see through. We did have our infrared. Something came right past us, probably no more than I'd say 10 yards, and walked basically right in front of us, and then cut off. But we were able to just get that there wasn't a clear thermal image, but we can tell that something large was behind that tree, because we just saw it light up. Right. And then I waited for another probably about a minute afterwards, and then I said, all right, I'm gonna go break into the brush and see if I can see it in the clear opening. And when I did, I saw something peer out from the tree. And then, and this was a tree that was, probably a good, 40, 50 yards away. And then we didn't see it again. But where the head popped up was probably about 6.5 feet. Yeah. It was a little bigger than me. Yeah. So that was a pretty cool experience. But that's nice. We were listening to the oldies on the Willie Roadhouse channel, and on the way up, and it got us all pumped up. That's right. But we had it was actually that same year. We went back up in October, and this was just a couple of us that said, "Hey, you know what? We want to go back up here, check it out again." So we had people in that area, and during the day, what I like to do, I'm very big with the maps. Reading over topo maps. I'm really big into, okay, where's the best place, food, water, hiding areas. And I would look, and I said, you know what, there's an area to the north, and I really want to check it out because it offers all three of that. So I went up there during the day. This was on a Saturday in October in the Allegheny National Forest, which is prime hunting season. So in Pennsylvania, we can't hunt. There's only 3 days out of the whole year that we can hunt on a Sunday. So this was one of those states where you had Saturday, and then Sunday was going to be no hunting. Right. So I went up there, and man, there was hunters everywhere. So every single place I found, there was hunters. I said, well, you know what? This might be a good spot for a base camp. This might be a good spot. This might be a good spot. So I kept driving, and I found a little pull-off. It was what they call a dispersed camping site, and in the Allegheny National Forest there. And I pulled in. There was no other cars there. I get out, and I start walking around, and there's a little trail. There was a creek just to the right of me, and then it went up the mountain, and there was a little hiking trail that went up along the creek. So I said, yeah, I'll just take a walk up here, see if there's anything. Well, I get up, and I'm probably about 150 yards from the truck. So not that far, but, for all intents and purposes, no one comes up there. And here I'm looking on the ground, and there is a perfect 14-inch print there. And I'm looking at it, I see toes. It's... this is a good print. The only thing though is that there was a little bit of an angle, so it stepped in. It didn't go across or up the trail. It went at an angle across the trail. Right. So I start looking to see if I can, and I found a couple spots, but they weren't really tracks. But I could see impressions in the grass where something would have stepped. And I measured out. It was about a 5.5 foot stride. But man, this print looked so nice. So it's around 4:30 in the afternoon. And so I marked it. I put a stick there to mark where the track was so I can find it the next day. I ended up, trying to find a hardware store. There's no hardware stores up there. So I said, oh boy, I'm out of luck. Well, guess what? During the night it rained.
Ah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I took some photos of the track, and I'll see if I can send them to you before we close out here. But
Okay.
so I went and and let me see if I can. I'm just going to try to pull this up right now. So I went in and I went in to find the track the next day. Now the next day there's no hunters up there at all.
Right.
So by this time, when we go up there, here, let me. I found the pictures. I'm going to try and send this to you. The only thing I had to measure it was my was $1 bills.
That's hey, it's scale, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So so what we ended up doing was everyone was going home that day. I said, all right, I'll just go up there on my own and go ahead and cast it. So I went up the next day, and again, there's no one around. I went from the highway, which they call it a highway, but it's, like a 2-lane road, and back to where this was. It was about I'd say a 5 to 6 mile trek in. Did not pass one car. Mm-hmm. So I get up there, and I go over the little bridge that the little creek ran under, and I noticed there's a couple other things, little landmarks there, and then I pull into the spot. So this is about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I go up. I have my plaster with me. I go up to take the cast. So I did all that. I come back to the truck, and I figure, well, it's going to take about, 45 minutes to an hour or so to let that set. So I said, well, I'm just going to look over maps, and there's no cell service up there, so there's really not a lot I could do.
Right.
So as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I look over across the stream. There you have the road, and then there's the bridge. And just on the other side, I see this tree shaking. And it's a smaller tree, probably, I don't know, maybe about 12 to 14 feet high. But it's shaking so hard that when the leaves were coming down, it looked like, remember back in the 80s where people would go into those phone booths with the dollar bills and you try to catch. It was like that. Like the leaves were just coming down like you wouldn't believe. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and it took me like probably a good at least 15 to 20 seconds to kind of for the shock to kind of go over, like, what the hell is that? Or what the heck is that? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I don't see a deer. I don't see a squirrel. But, I mean, I don't see really anything else. But, man, this tree was shaking. So I'm sitting there and I said, all right, if something's there, I start talking to it. Because I don't have anything to, for protection either, I sat there and said, listen, I'm only out here just to document, I'm not out here to harm you. If you want to show yourself though, that'd be great. Come on up, I'll take a picture,
Right.
And needless to say, it stopped, but I didn't hear anything, and everything was quiet. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going up. I'm going to get this cast. I'm going to run back and get out of here. So I went up to go get the cast, and I just had that, the hair standing up on the back of the neck feeling. I go up, get it, come back to the truck. So on my way back, I cross the bridge and I go over to where that tree was. Well, right next to the tree was a ditch that was dug down. It was probably about 6 or 7 feet deep. and it was a man-made ditch that people they did that for drainage issues, to keep I guess areas from flooding in that area. So here I looked down there, and this ditch took you right into a really thick stand of pine trees. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really have anything else to to go back here, but man, you know what? I could see something in that ditch. I got down in that ditch, and like I could raise my hand and touch the bottom of that tree, but if something was down in that ditch watching me, you know, they could have struck that tree. So that was probably, you know, for being on my own, that was probably one of the oddest encounters I've ever had. I've been out. I've had tree knocks. You know, I've had howls. I've had whoops. You know, lots of vocalizations. But that one there with the tree shaking, and it's a behavior that's common among apes. You know, is shaking those trees. Now it's also common for deer. You know, but there I didn't see anything there. I didn't see a squirrel. I didn't see, and at the time there was just no. You know, no noise whatsoever, and which I thought was definitely odd. So, it was definitely an experience, you know, that I've had. So, again, a lot of the other times I've had experiences, it's been return vocalizations, which I'm working with on a long-term project with, but for this in itself, man, it was you know, I really couldn't find an answer for that.
Yeah. All right, so we got a question from the chat room.
Yep.
Gary wants to know: has your involvement in Sasquatch and law enforcement ever came together as in a sighting by other officers?
Yes. That's I can't speak too much about it, but I've had other officers from other agencies come to me and tell me about their experiences. And one of which was a Class A encounter where he had actually seen a Bigfoot in north central Pennsylvania. And yes, and he knew I was interested, and he knew I was doing investigations and research. And you know, he came to me and said, "Hey, this is what I saw, and I have no other way to explain it." It was during hunting season. They were up there hunting camp, that's the only time they go up, you know, and they were out in the field, and they saw this thing standing, and he said, man, he was like, you know, we all try to be, you know, pretty good judges of distance and pretty good judges of height. He said, he was like, this thing had to be 8 feet tall. And he said there was no, what he said that he was like, this is not a person. He said there was no neck.
Yeah.
He said it was just shoulders and you know, basically a bump, you know, for where the head was. It was like, this thing was huge.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick advertisement break.
All right.
And then we will be right back.
Awesome.
Here we go. We'll be right back in about a minute. All right, so September 6th and 7th this year, folks. Here is the website. If you want to get tickets to this, it's going to be a fun time. There's going to be a lot of folks there. It's going to be karaoke, believe it or not. So it's going to be a good time. So if you get the opportunity to go, do not pass it up. So get on there, because I think, what did he tell me? I think he's got a little over 100 tickets left, I believe.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, so make sure you guys check that out and get your tickets.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So let me see. I think we had another. Here we go. So Mick says, without giving away specific research areas, where are the hot spots of Sasquatch activity in Pennsylvania?
All right, so I'm going to tell you this, but I'm embarrassed to actually say this. The hottest spot in Pennsylvania I've never been to. So I would say the hot spot is definitely the Chestnut Ridge, and that's basically common knowledge. You know, Chestnut Ridge, man, that's just had activity. But
everywhere.
For me, it's a bit of a drive. And you know what? I'm just, my area in North Central PA is, I think that's basically like untapped area. There's a lot of reports that come in, they kind of trickle in, and there's not a lot of people up there. You need witnesses, for encounters. And if there's no one up there, they could be doing whatever they want, But the Chestnut Ridge or the Allegheny National Forest as well. If I was going to say for someone to be looking for an encounter in Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge first, Allegheny, which I've spent plenty of time in the Allegheny National Forest. I'll tell you, there's some really weird stuff that happens out there, but we have some good friends of ours that are researchers out there that are out there almost every night of the week, and they know where the hot spots are. So yep. Or North Central.
Yep. All right, so we're getting down to the end here. So
yes.
let's ask this one: human or ape?
Oh, you know what? I don't. That's a tough one. I'm gonna say I'm very scientific. So, but I don't know. I'm gonna say that it's something somewhere in between. Whether it's just a relic hominid, but I really don't know if it's going to be a relic hominid or not. I think some, like with Russia, they have the Almas out there. I think that's more of a relic hominid, but I think what we're looking at, here in the continental United States, I think is more of an ape. Might be closer to Gigantopithecus. Than maybe your normal hominid, like that Australopithecine or something evolved from that.
Yeah, it's funny. I've found myself going back and forth on that.
Yeah,
because there's some characteristics you look at and you go, "Oh, yeah, this is an ape,"
Yep.
But, it's banging sticks. It's that's, and then you go, but how can it stay hidden? It's almost like it has an intelligence. So then you find yourself going to the human side.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth.
One thing, and I didn't bring this up in the beginning, but I'll touch really quickly on it. Is I was involved with the Eric Freen manhunt many years ago now, and he had shot at 2 state troopers, killed one of them up in the Poconos, and he was on the run for almost a whole month. And he was this was a human that knew the land very well, and he was able to hide from humans until there was a couple sightings here and there. We'd follow up on it, but it was we finally got him in an abandoned hotel, where he ended up, being captured. But he went a whole month, in Poconos, and so if a person like that could go like that, imagine what somebody, what an animal or a hominid could do. They don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen.
Right. Exactly. So since we just got a few seconds, I'm gonna throw one more in here.
All right.
And this is one that you'll probably be able to answer pretty easily, being in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So if they exist, why do we not find any bones in the woods?
Well, and I'm really big with that. With the bones, there's a lot of things that like to eat bones. Believe it or not, I did a study with the body farms, where we actually had talked to the doctors and the researchers at these body farms, where people donate their bodies to science, and we get to see how long it takes for them to decompose and what the process is like. And I saw pictures of deer eating bones.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do you have deer, but you have mice, you have porcupines. Love that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so any sort of bones are not going to, they're not going to be easily found. And the one thing is, for how many missing people that we have, why aren't we finding their bones? For Pennsylvania has about 20 to 23,000 black bears, and a lot of them die from natural causes. Why aren't we finding their bones
Right.
out in the woods? Because they're getting eaten up.
Yeah. Yep. That is correct. Well,
Yep.
I told you the hour would fly by.
It did.
It never fails. Never fails. Well, Matt, we greatly appreciate you being a guest. I think everybody had fun with this.
I hope so. Yeah.
Hopefully one day I'll run into you somewhere.
Oh, definitely.
So, are you going to be at the Pennsylvania camp out?
I was invited, but I may have something else going on that week.
Okay.
But if not, most people can find me up in North Central PA, so out in the woods,
Right.
or they can find me on Facebook, and but I do plan. I was telling you before the show, I do plan on coming down your way in June. So,
Okay.
hopefully, if I'm in the area, I'll let you know.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Do you mind holding on for a few minutes while we close out the show?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for coming on the show. We really appreciate you coming on and, giving us questions, and just keep it up, guys. That's what we like to see. So everyone, we will see you. Actually, glad I just thought about that. So we will not have a show next Monday night because I have to go out of town for work. And, I want y'all to feel sorry for me because I got to go to Long Beach, California. So I know y'all feel really bad that I got to go all the way out to California, but, I'll be thinking about you when I stick my foot in the Pacific Ocean. Let's put it that way. So anyway, no show next Monday night, but we will be back on the air the following Monday. So again, thank you everybody for being on, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.